Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be taking a look at the ListTile widget, which allows you to efficiently display data inside of a list view. You'll notice our scaffold contains an app bar, and inside the body of the scaffold we're going to create a list view. This list view is going to have a list of children, and inside this list of children we're going to create a list tile, like so. What we do first of all is give our list view a title, and we'll simply say insert title here, and likewise a subtitle of insert subtitle here. If I then save that, you'll notice how we then have a list tile over here in our list view. Now, there are a number of other parameters that you can provide to the list tile, such as leading, as we've got here, title and subtitle, trailing, is 3 line, dense, and many more. We'll take a look first of all at the leading parameter. This allows you to specify a widget that will be positioned at the start of the list tile. By default, will be on the left hand side, as we're on a left to right based language. Leading, in this case, will be an icon, and we'll simply use the account circle icon. If we save that, you'll notice how our list tile then gains this account circle icon on the left hand side of the list tile, with an appropriate amount of padding inserted automatically for us. The list tile really allowing you to specify the absolute minimal leading, title, subtitle and others, and end up with a really nice looking widget displayed in your application. We can also specify the trailing parameter. This is also another widget, which in this case we will simply specify a forward-facing arrow, like so. And you'll notice on the right-hand side we then have our trailing widget appear on the right-hand side of the list tile. Leading on the left, followed by the title and subtitle, the body of the list tile if you like, followed then by the trailing widget on the right-hand side. You'll notice there are also a number of other properties. We'll take a look at the is3line property next. Is3line by default is set to false, like so. Makes no difference there. However, you'll notice that if we insert a new line and specify some more text in our subtitle, you'll notice how the list tile essentially loses its visual appeal somewhat, because it gets quite squashed at the top and the bottom. If you know in advance that your subtitle is going to extend over 2 lines, as it does in this case, you can specify is3line to be true, and you'll notice you therefore get an enhanced amount of padding applied around the list tile to make it look much more visually appealing. Removing the is3line and reverting the subtitle back to just a single line there, like so, to revert the list tile to its default appearance, we'll take a look next at the dense parameter. Dense is false by default. You'll notice no change in the visual styling. However, specifying dense to be true, you'll notice how the list tile shrinks to become more dense and compact, meaning that you could fit more list tiles onto the screen. This is especially useful if your application has potentially a large amount of data to be displayed, and you wish for all of this data to be displayed at the same time on the screen. Using dense specified and set to true, meaning that you can squash your list tiles together somewhat and shrink them down in size. Removing the dense parameter there to revert the list tile to its default appearance, we'll take a look next at the enabled parameter. Enabled by default is set to true. You'll notice no difference there. However, if we set enabled to false, you'll notice how the list tile becomes greyed out. Enabled set to false essentially behaves much like you would have when your button, for example, is disabled, greying out the button, but in this case greying out the list tile itself. And this effect covers not only the body, the title and subtitle, but also the leading and trailing widgets if they are specified. We'll take a look next at the onTap callback. Now the onTap callback function allows you to specify a function to be executed when the user taps on the list tile. You'll notice how if I tap on the list tile, we have a standard splash animation, much the same as a button, and tapping on the list tile would call this callback function. For example, if you were displaying a list of users, you could navigate to the specific user's page when the user list tile is tapped on. You'll also notice how we have the onLongPress parameter. OnLongPress parameter essentially being triggered when the user long presses on the list tile. Both of these callback functions work much the same as their counterparts on the button widgets. Next up we have the selected parameter. Selected by default is set to false. You'll notice no change in the visual styling. However, setting selected to true, you'll notice that the list tile then gains this primary colour, blue in this application's case. Essentially this highlights that specific list tile to the user, which is useful if you want the user to be able to select a list tile in a long list of list tile widgets, and you want it to be clear that the user has selected a particular list tile. Essentially there, the selected styling the list tile to match the application's primary colour. You've also got other parameters such as the focus colour and the hover colour, allowing you to specify different colours for when the list tile is focused and when the user hovers over the list tile, and you can specify the focus node and whether or not the list tile is auto-focused. So essentially the list tile is the perfect fit for the list view widget, allowing you to effectively display information in a nicely pre-arranged format on the device. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for watching.